We're in the city of Chicago right now, just taking some photos. We're trying to chase the sunset, so we're going to see if we can get anything good. And we're going to just be out in the field doing our thing, explaining the process. So, here we go. Alright, so we're stopping right here at this little pathway with red berries, and basically the trees outline everything, and we're going to try and get some photos and videos and just see what we can do. There's some nice leading lines. Let's see what we can do and if we can get anything good. So the sun is setting right now. I'm about to go grab the 70 to 200 2.8. That's going to be really good for reaching long distances, getting lots of compression, and hopefully being able to capture the train tracks at a long distance and the sunset. It's not a sunset, but there's a little bit of color, and we'll see if we're able to exaggerate that while editing the photos. We found this cool little building with light and stuff like that, so we're gonna be trying to get photos. Alright, so I just got back from the city a little bit ago, and right now I'm going to be sharing all of the photos that I was able to capture throughout the entire day. I actually ended up trying to focus a lot on light during this trip, and specifically I did this because the sun was harsh and bright, and because it wasn't a cloudy day, there were lots of shadows, and there was some nice contrast with the highlights and the shadows, so I really wanted to focus on light. And of course I also tried to make good compositions, but light was my main focus for the day. To start off, I took this photo of my friend Tyler, who I was with in the city. It's a pretty simple shot. I would even call it a snapshot. I made it black and white just because I found myself focusing on light, like I said, and black and white photos really exaggerate the contrast between the highlights and the shadows. So that's why I made the choice I did with this photo right here. Then moving on, I also got this photo right here on the 70 to 200. I was shooting this at 2.8 to try and blur out the background as much as I could. And I was actually really surprised that I got this photo in focus, at least as much as you can get a photo in focus on these Canon DSLRs. Obviously, on the Sony cameras, you can get a lot sharper images because of their advanced autofocus systems. But with this photo, I just wanted to show this dude was riding his bike in the city. I made it black and white again to kind of make it look a little old-timey. It's kind of a cool look that I was going for in a lot of these edits, and so I thought it was a cool story to tell. He was wearing shorts. This was a cold winter night, and that was the second photo of the day. It was actually at night. Then as I was walking down the street, and I wish I had footage of all of this, there's all these point of view GoPro videos on YouTube, and I might want to try that out. But the photo I took was of this guy crossing through this building, had kind of old columns that looked like just cool architecture, and I wanted to capture him on the lower left-hand thirds. If you imagine the rule of thirds, the grid on your photos, that's just a trick to photography. When you place your subject on that rule of thirds or the grid, it just looks more appealing, and it's somehow just the way your brain processes it. It doesn't really matter. That's what I went for with this photo. So if you remember that little dome building we went into earlier in the city with the light coming through and there were these black designs, it was just kind of hard to explain. But this is a photo I got from this place of Tyler just holding up the camera. These are pretty simple. I got two photos here. Here they are. Again, I went with black and white to show the contrast between the highlights and the shadows. Just a little something I figured I'd try doing more of because I like it. And again, the black and white is all in the editing. I would definitely recommend that you don't take your photos black and white, because imagine you want them in color, you're never going to get them in color. So always shoot in color and then easily switch to black and white when you're editing. So this one right here has hands down got to be one of my favorite photos of the entire day. It's Tyler. He's standing up on one of the train platforms and he's all the way up the stairs. There's these leading lines on either side of him. The stairs lead right up to him. He's again on that top thirds, that if you imagine a line, he's on that top thirds. And I just love this photo. It looks stunning. It looks amazing. Again, black and white. I'm liking the black and white. Just the look that it gives your photos. It's interesting and you really don't see it. The colors here were kind of muted. They were boring. And if you have boring colors, just switch to black and white and pump up the contrast. Make the highlights go up, shadows down, and you're gonna have a pretty good looking image. So moving on, this was actually a really cool photo. There was just this train passing by in the loop, and this random dude with sunglasses, and he's just this cool looking dude is sticking his head out the window. He's probably the engineer, and I'm like, oh, okay, let's take that right there, and somehow I got this in focus, and I thought that was pretty cool. Just one of those moments that kind of happens before your eyes, and you just let your instincts take over, and you just try and get the shot. So kind of a cool photo, but not too special. This photo right here of the taxi kind of coming through a strip of light was taken towards the beginning of the day. I just like that the taxi stands out because it's a yellow bright color, and when it's converted to black and white, you can definitely tell because the strip of light is coming through, and it exaggerates the photo. But this is not my favorite photo. My favorite photo probably of the day, but definitely my favorite black and white photo is right here. And this is a photo that was taken from the train platform. We went up as high as we could without having to pay. And we just looked down. I had my 70 to 200 on so I could reach. And I wasn't going for any bokeh. I wasn't trying to get an out of focus background with this. This was just a simple photo driven purely by composition and light. The composition is pretty simple. I wanted to capture this guy in the frame and have his shadow extend to the lower half, his actual body on the upper half of the image, and the light, well, obviously there's an extreme shadow that extends all the way down, and I just barely catch it in the frame. There's a little bit of room in the bottom. So I just really like this photo. It's visually amazing. I think it speaks for itself. I think it's pretty cool. Now I'm going to move on to all of the photos that I kept in color, which are also pretty dang good. So if any photographer has ever looked online and searched for the top photography locations in Chicago, they have probably seen the train station on Adams and Wabash. They've probably seen the Self Park, and that is basically exactly what it sounds like, a parking lot. It's somewhere by the Chicago Theater, near the Chicago River. I forgot what street it's actually on. It might be State Street. And there are these glass windows, and you're basically able to stick your head out of maybe an opening that's this big, like 2 feet tall. You stick your head out of that opening, you stick your camera out, which is a little bit risky, so put that strap on your neck, and basically you're able to get these amazing reflection photos. And I'm actually pretty happy with this one I got of Tyler. I wasn't expecting much just because of how of an awkward position I was in to get this photo, but the reflection, I like the bokeh in the background, and you can kind of make out the outline of the tall buildings behind him. So it's kind of simple, but I do like this photo. Moving on, you saw in the video clips where we went to that little pathway in Millennium Park, and there were the trees with the red berries and all the leading lines, and I just thought it would make for a cool composition, so I took this shot right here. Again, Tyler is in the rule of thirds. He's on the right side of the frame, and as you can see, photographers use this rule or guideline a lot. You don't have to. Rules are really there to break. Either you can execute them and you can execute them well, or you can break them in a creative way that is going to somehow enhance your results, make your photo more creative. So either stick to the rules and execute them well, or do your own creative thing, because that's okay too. And that's what photography is about, experimenting, growing, and learning through your experiences. So that's the only way to get better, really. As we moved on and it got darker, it was harder to get good images because I was pushing my ISO up to 800 or 1600, and I have a Canon SL2 that's not very good in low light. The autofocus is also pretty bad. There's only 9 points, which is ridiculous compared to Sony's 425 or 600, whatever. So it's hard to get photos in focus, especially at night. Yet I got these photos right here. I kept them in color just because I liked the color that was happening, the blues and the shadows and the warm highlights. And I'm pretty happy with these photos. Again, I had Tyler be my subject. If you follow us on Instagram, right here, you'll see a lot more of our photos. We post photos of each other all the time. He's my subject, I'm his, that kind of thing. So I think that wraps up this video. If you enjoyed this video, if you learned something from it, consider liking and subscribing. If you like this kind of video where we go out, we take photos, and we come back to the studio and we talk about them, explain them, then yeah, tell me about it. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Get out there, create some content, and have fun with it. Peace.